He sat alone in a crowded office. Meet Daniel. For 3 years, no one listened when he spoke in meetings. His ideas? Ignored. His presence? Barely acknowledged. Until one day, he tried a forgotten Dale Carnegie method. What happened next shocked everyone, even Daniel himself. He became the most respected voice in the room. The quiet guy suddenly became the magnet everyone wanted to be around. So what exactly did he do? Stay till the end, because today we're diving into one of the most powerful, life-changing secrets Dale Carnegie ever shared. A secret that made people like Daniel go from invisible to unforgettable. Let's rewind. Daniel worked in marketing. Brilliant ideas, sharp analysis. But socially, he was what people call forgettable. He'd speak, and people would look at their phones. He'd suggest ideas, and his manager would move on like he hadn't said a word. At the lunch table, people barely noticed he was there. He thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this world. Maybe charisma is something you're born with. Maybe I'll just do my job quietly and survive. But one night, something changed. Late one night, after another day of being overlooked at work, Daniel sat slouched on his couch, scrolling mindlessly through YouTube. It was one of those moments. You know the kind. The room silent, the world moving. But you feel stuck. Tired, but unable to sleep. Hungry for change, but unsure where to start. Then suddenly, a quote flashed across the screen of a motivational short video. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Dale Carnegie. Daniel froze. The quote hit him like a truck. Not because it was flashy, not because it was loud, but because it spoke to something he already knew deep down. He had been doing it all wrong. All this time, he'd been trying to stand out by showcasing his intelligence, his ideas, his effort. He thought respect was earned by proving yourself constantly. But here was this simple, almost counterintuitive truth, buried in a line from a book written nearly a century ago. Be interested in them, not get them interested in you. That night, curiosity took over. He opened a new tab, Googled the quote, and found the source. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He had heard of the book before, maybe seen it in a bookstore once or mentioned in a podcast, but never gave it serious thought. This time was different. He downloaded the e-book immediately. Within minutes, he was hooked. What he discovered was staggering. This wasn't just some motivational fluff. This was one of the most influential personal development books of all time. A book that had shaped presidents, CEOs, Hollywood stars, and thought leaders across generations. Published in 1936, sold over 30 million copies, translated into dozens of languages. Still topping bestseller lists nearly a century later. How could a book that old still be this relevant? Because it speaks to something timeless, something eternal, something that modern self-help books often overlook. The truth that people don't care how smart you are until they feel you care about them. No amount of degrees, achievements, or witty remarks can substitute for the warmth of genuine interest. No resume can replace the impact of making someone feel seen, and no strategy for networking can compete with the raw power of human connection built through curiosity. Daniel didn't just read that quote, he felt it, like someone had finally explained why he'd been invisible for so long. He hadn't failed because he lacked talent. He had failed because he focused too much on being interesting and too little on being interested. That night, something cracked open inside him, a shift in perspective, a seed of transformation. And it all started with one quote, one click, and a book written almost 90 years ago. Daniel read a chapter called Become Genuinely Interested in Other People. At first he scoffed. Really? That's it? Just show interest in others? But then he read deeper. Carnegie gave example after example, stories of presidents, business tycoons, and ordinary folks who transformed their lives using this one skill. One stood out. In Carnegie's book, there's a story of a banker named Jim Farley. Jim remembered not just names, but birthdays, children's names, even favorite hobbies. At a dinner party, someone asked, "How do you know so many people?" Jim replied, "Simple. I like people." And that's the secret. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't manipulation. It was a mindset shift. Daniel decided to test it. No more overthinking how to sound smart. No more memorizing clever talking points. No more rehearsed small talk in front of the mirror. That morning, as he walked through the revolving doors of his office building, he told himself, "Today, I won't try to impress anyone. I'll try to be curious instead." He took a slow breath and reminded himself of Dale Carnegie's golden rule. Be genuinely interested in other people. The elevator dinged. He stepped in. The usual silence. People looking at their phones. But instead of looking down, he turned to Julia, his teammate, and said with a relaxed smile, "Hey, Julia, how was your weekend?" Julia blinked, surprised. Most people didn't ask. She lit up. "It was actually amazing. My daughter scored her first goal in her soccer game. She's been practicing every day for weeks." Daniel leaned in, not physically, but mentally. He nodded, smiled, and said, "That's awesome. What position does she play?" Julia smiled wider. The moment stretched. Suddenly, Daniel wasn't just the guy from the analytics desk. He was Daniel, the guy who cared. Next, during the Monday team meeting, Daniel noticed Raj's PowerPoint slides had smooth, eye-catching transitions. Normally, he would have silently admired it and moved on. But this time, he leaned across the table and said, "Hey, Raj, your deck looks really sharp today. Love those animations." Raj looked up, surprised, and chuckled. "Took me almost an hour last night to get those right. My laptop froze twice." They both laughed. That one comment. It started a conversation over lunch later that day, the seed of a new friendship. Then, on his way to refill his coffee, Daniel spotted Mr. Kareem, the janitor, pushing his mop across the hallway. Most people barely noticed him, but Daniel smiled and said, "Morning, Mr. Kareem. How's your day going so far?" Mr. Kareem paused mid-step. He looked at Daniel for a beat longer than expected, then replied, "You know, you're the first person to ask me that all month." There wasn't a dramatic music cue, no sudden applause. But in that quiet moment, something clicked. Daniel realized the incredible power of simple, sincere curiosity. He didn't have to tell jokes. He didn't have to dominate the room. He just had to see people, really see them. That day, Daniel wasn't performing. He wasn't trying to be liked. He was just present. And for the first time in years, he felt a subtle but powerful shift in how the world responded to him. People made eye contact, smiled back, leaned in. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was connected. And it all started with one question. How can I be curious? Within a week, something strange happened. People started greeting him. Julia saved him a seat at lunch. His boss began asking for his input. then actually using it. Even the HR head invited him to lead a small brainstorming session. Daniel wasn't louder, he wasn't more qualified, he was just more interested. Here's the psychology. According to a study published in the journal Psychological Science, when people talk about themselves, it activates the same brain regions as food and money. It feels rewarding. So when you let people talk about themselves, and you genuinely listen, you create a dopamine response in their brain. They feel good around you. That's not charm, that's chemistry. Daniel also started using a phrase Carnegie loved. Tell me more. Simple, but powerful. When someone talked about their weekend, instead of nodding and moving on, he'd say, "That's interesting. Tell me more." What was that like? How did you feel about that? And suddenly, people opened up. Their walls came down. And Daniel? He became the guy who just gets people. Let's pause and look at someone who used this Carnegie principle to become a global icon. Oprah Winfrey. What made her interviews legendary? Not her fame, not her flash, but her genuine interest. She made every guest feel like the most important person in the world. She listened, deeply, without interrupting, without ego. That's Carnegie in action. Daniel's career began to blossom. In meetings, his ideas were heard, not because they were louder, but because people felt connected to him. He got invited to events. He became the go-to guy for cross-functional teams. Within 6 months, he was promoted to team lead. The secret wasn't in trying to stand out, it was in making others feel seen. Let's not pretend it was all smooth. One time, Daniel tried to compliment a co-worker's shirt and said, "Nice stripes, makes you look like a fashionable zebra." Awkward silence. Lesson? Genuine interest doesn't mean forced flattery. It means being present, not rehearsed. Even Dale Carnegie said, "The royal road to a person's heart is to talk about the things he or she treasures most." Want proof this works long term? A Harvard Business Review article found that leaders who show empathy and genuine interest in their teams are rated 40% more effective. Why? Because trust leads to influence. And Carnegie understood this before neuroscience could even explain it. You don't need a new wardrobe. You don't need a different personality. You just need to change your focus. Here's your roadmap, a step-by-step guide to using Dale Carnegie's forgotten method to transform how people see and respond to you. Step 1. Ask open-ended questions. Most people ask, "Was your weekend good?" It's a dead end. You'll get a one-word answer. "Yeah." And the conversation dies there. Instead ask, "What did you get up to this weekend?" Anything fun happen recently? What's been the highlight of your week so far? These questions unlock stories, emotions, and real connection. Why does this work? Because people want to share. They just need permission to open up. Think about it. Who do you remember more? The person who asked, "How are you?" Or the one who asked, "What's something you're excited about right now?" Step 2. Listen, not to reply. Most people listen with one goal: to jump in and say something smarter, funnier, or more impressive. Don't be that person. Listen to understand. Listen with curiosity. Listen like they're the only person in the world at that moment. It's rare, it's powerful, it's magnetic. Remember this: being heard is so close to being loved that most people can't tell the difference. David Augsburger. That's why true listening builds instant trust. Practice it like a skill. Silence your inner monologue. Forget what you'll say next. Just absorb. Step 3. Remember the little details. This one's a superpower. You don't need a perfect memory, just a system. After a conversation, jot down what you learned. Keep a note on your phone, names of kids, pets, hobbies, the vacation they're planning, their birthday. It may seem small to you, but to them, it means everything. Take inspiration from Jim Farley, the famous U.S. Postmaster General and political strategist Dale Carnegie wrote about. Jim remembered thousands of names, family members, and birthdays. People would walk into a room and he'd say, "How's your brother doing? Didn't he just open that bakery in Chicago?" People were blown away. Why? Because remembering says you care, and care is the currency of influence. Step 4. Mirror. Their emotions. Connection is not just about what you say, it's about how you respond to emotion. If someone's excited, be excited with them. If they're frustrated, show empathy. Don't one-up their story or pivot to your own. Imagine someone says, "I just got promoted," instead of saying, "Nice, I got one last year too." Say, "Wow, that's amazing. You've worked hard for that." Let them have the spotlight. Let their moment shine. That's how emotional bonds are built. You become someone people feel safe around, heard, seen, understood. And in a world full of shallow interactions, that makes you unforgettable. Step 5. Drop the ego. This is the hardest and the most transformative. We all want to be impressive. We want approval, recognition, praise. But here's the paradox. The more you try to impress people, the more they pull away. The more you focus on them, the more they're drawn to you. Let go of needing to be the funniest, the smartest, the center of attention. Instead, be the one who lifts others up, who gives them space to be themselves, who makes them feel valued, not overshadowed. Dale Carnegie said, "Talk to someone about themselves and they'll listen for hours." It's not flattery, it's human nature. In summary, if you want to stop being ignored, if you want people to lean in when you speak, if you want to build real influence, then don't try to outshine. Try to understand. Ask better questions. Listen without agenda. Remember what matters to them. Feel what they feel. Let go of your ego. That's what Daniel did. And that's how he went from invisible to unforgettable. A real-world example of Steve Jobs. Yes, Steve Jobs was known for being intense, but in private, many colleagues said what made him magnetic was his deep curiosity. He'd ask questions, challenge ideas, and make you feel like your thoughts mattered. He knew that people don't follow bosses. They follow visionaries who see them. 1 year later, Daniel was unrecognizable. Not because he changed his looks, not because he took speaking classes, but because he changed his focus from himself to others. The invisible man had become the influential one, not by trying to be likable, but by showing others that they mattered. Let's bring it home. Dale Carnegie's forgotten method. Become genuinely interested in other people. Why it works. Activates dopamine in others. Builds trust and connection. Shifts attention away from your ego. How to use it. Ask better questions. Listen deeply. Follow up. Remember details. Be sincere. So next time you walk into a room and feel invisible. Try this method. Ask someone about their story. Look them in the eye. Say, "Tell me more." Because in a world full of people trying to be interesting, be the one who's interested. That's how Daniel was no longer ignored. That's how you can become unforgettable. Liked this video? Hit the like button. Want more Carnegie wisdom? Subscribe and turn on the bell. Comment below. Have you ever felt invisible like Daniel? Let's talk about it. You're not alone. See you in the next one.